Hello everybody, welcome to this community coffee call with we're going to be recording this call, so don't worry if you miss anything or have to dip out. We'll be publishing it later on, and if you have any questions, please drop them into the Stage Questions channel. And of course we've already got a whole heap of great questions from you all, which we'll go through at the back end of the call. I'm joined today by Spartacus Rex, Hugo, Eurobuddha and Jazz. We've got different things we're going to go through with all of you. So we'll, without further ado, I'll hand over to Hugo for introduction. Hugo.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining. Hope everyone can hear me okay. And thanks for all the high quality questions as always. We're probably going to get into a lot of those during this. So effectively it will mean digging into a wide range of areas, including product development, both within core Minima and also products that we're building at the application layer. And we'll also cover off updates on rewards and incentives, partnerships, as well as I'll go into more detail in terms of fundraising efforts as well. So lot of stuff to cover off. Looking forward to getting into it. Let me hand over to, I'll hand back to you now, Luke, for your updates, and then we'll go into the AMAs.
Cheers for that, Hugo. So let's start by looking at the latest developments here at Minima over the last sort of month. So the first up is telco partnerships. One of our earliest proof of concept projects was with Manx Telecom, looking at how Minima could help them move their technology stack forwards into the future whilst taking account of the legacy technology they relied on. This was one of our earliest successes, and since then we've been looking and working hard to take the learnings we had from that project and develop them into something that the whole telecommunication industry can benefit from. So whilst doing that, we've also had many discussions with some of the largest telcos on the planet, and we have learnt that the issues faced by Manx Telecom are ones shared by every legacy telco operating today. This has led us to where we are right now, where we are proud to reveal our tokenization product, which will allow any telco to offer branded tokens to their customers to unlock new opportunities, including not only data and value transfer across existing mobile networks, but also brand deals, benefits and experiences generating tangible value for their existing customers. This is achieved by having Minima operating in parallel with their existing technology. So there's not the pain of having to upgrade their existing legacy infrastructure. We're finalising our first telco deal as we speak and anticipate being able to present a signed letter of intent to you all in Q3. In the meantime, immediately following this call, we will release the product video for you to all dig into, and we're really excited about this step into a global industry that can touch the lives of every mobile user on the planet. So coming on from that, we then spoke last time around about the Vault partnership, which obviously is in a completely different vertical, and we were really pleased to see the reaction to the Vault video we dropped a few weeks ago. The AMA that came off the back of it generated some excellent Q&A, and we will be sure to continue this format with each of our new products as we go forward. Minima has always been about the utility it offers and the benefit it can offer to users, whether they understand they're using it or not. And we've been having good discussions with both auto OEMs and also charge point operators for private and commercial transport. We anticipate being able to reveal the initial partner we are working with in August also. And we will publish the memorandum of understanding once the ink is dry on that. Also last time we spoke about the noding vehicle and the work we're doing with the Porsche racing teams. So this is a quick update from our VP Partnerships, Adam. You can't join us today, so I'll go through this one with you. So the update on the embedded node in vehicles. The project team have been developing a data logger with embedded Minima communication for secure transfer of data from the engine control unit to be able to visualize the data from the car inside a mini DAP. There's been great interest from the Porsche teams that we're starting to work with during Monaco, and we've had several leads with other racing cups in the UK. However, we will start our proof of concept prototype development on standard road cars. This has had a huge commercial potential for generic use, such as logging distance travelled, component status and health, for example, battery charge and status, and service history. Minima's embedded solution will allow drivers to be paid for sharing their data and has huge interest for insurance companies, highway maintenance, and OEMs and fleet managers. since we last spoke, we did, on a different topic, we launched our native iOS bounty, where we asked those of you in the community who had an interest to have a crack at developing a native Minima node for iOS. So I'll quickly update you on that progress. It's been running now for a couple of weeks, and we've had several of you contact us with different approaches, and we're really excited to see what comes out of this initiative. But 2 weeks as the initial window was always going to be optimistic, and to get a finalised product out of that. But we wanted to see who would take up the challenge, even with a compressed schedule. Yes, Spartacus Rex.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to chip in and say that there's only one way this is going to work, devs. So those of you out there who are trying to get this to work on iOS, me and Elias managed to get this to work in about 24 hours. And the way to do it is to use J to Obj-C, which is Google's way of converting Java to Objective-C. It's a very nice library. I was totally skeptical. I thought there's no way this is going to work. And actually, you plug in the Minima source and it gives you a complete iOS project. And the only actual thing, just to be technical for a second, that you had to work out was the initial call into the application. And those of you that have had a look at the Minima source code will notice there's a run main starter in the main class. And you can call that from iOS with a bunch of parameters, and it's like calling the command line. So if you want my tip about how to get this to work, as in just basic, all you have to do is run J to Obj-C on the code and it pumps it out, and then you have to add a few little linkers to get it into an application. And that worked fine, unbelievably. I was very impressed. So if you're trying to do that, that would be the way I would do it. Frankly, that probably isn't going to be the final way that this is going to work, because of the way that iOS shuts down applications that run in the background. And actually the way to do it would be to start it up every 10 minutes, do a sync, and then shut it down. And then when you restart because you can get iOS to send you a message that reboots you every 10 minutes. So that's for later on. But to just get something that runs on iOS, it is actually quite simple to do if you muck about with J to Obj-C. Have a look at it online. I think I was quite impressed. Google writes all its applications this way. So it writes all the apps as Android, Flutter, Java, etc., and then it just runs it through its J to Obj-C, and it pops out with an iOS application. So it definitely works, like Google Maps, Google Mail, all of that stuff. This is how they do it. So frankly, if you've got an Android application and you want to convert it to iOS, that's the way to do it. So just in case you want a top tip from me, that's how I would do it. If I was better at iOS, I'd actually knock this up, but that's how me and Elias managed to get something running in about 24 hours. So that's what I would do.
Cool, so a golden nugget of information for you there, devs. Like I said, we're pleased with the progress so far, but we're going to extend the project out for a few more weeks to see what can be accomplished in that time. So we'll of course keep you all in the loop, and if you have any questions, drop into the dev channels here on Discord. I'm sure we can have a chat with you and get you going. That's everything from me. Jazz, over to you for your updates, please.
Thanks, Luke. Hi everyone, good to see so many familiar and also new faces in the audience. So yeah, we've been busy. We do now have a board, and that means that if you're interested in developing on Minima, then you can make a post in the jobs board channel, and you can advertise your skills and mention whether you're willing to be paid or potentially work for free. And also, if you are looking for developers, then you can also post on the channel, explain what you're looking for, job description, and if you're willing to pay, and you can find people there. And in terms of the tech roadmap, we've been hard at work testing and building the new experience for the APK, and we're in the final stages of testing and expecting to roll that out next week. So this is the version of the app which unifies the desktop and the Android experience. The user interface is a lot more intuitive, and all of the mini dApps will be updated automatically for you in this version. We do have a lot of updates on all of the mini dApps as well, so new chatter, new mini dApp, health mini dApp, security, your pending actions that will also become a mini dApp. So there's a lot of changes there. Hopefully you'll think that they're all fully positive. And we will also be releasing a new mini DApp called Vesta, which is for creating vesting contracts on blockchain. And so we're also very excited to release that. And in terms of, I've actually seen a few questions in the community about this. So our rewards for incentive program users. So we will be releasing the loyalty program, which is 75 Minima for our incentive program users, which starts in September, and then another 75 in 6 months' time. And we are looking into extending it out beyond a year. That will be using the Vesta mini DApp. So looking forward to releasing that for you as well, for those long-standing community members. Finally, just to talk a bit about our road to decentralization. So over the coming months, there will be further changes to the app that ensures the network can sustain itself in a decentralized manner. So that means that we will be removing our server nodes and our archive nodes. And before we can turn off our server nodes, we need a way for users to join the network, because at the moment you start, and when new users join the network, they connect to one of our server nodes, and then they download a list of peers, they get the blockchain, and then you're off, you manage yourself. But in the future, we would like to turn off those servers, so we'll be implementing a way for you to import your own set of peers when you join. So working on trying to make that user-friendly, and then we're also working on turning off our archive nodes. So we will have a new process for the rethinking that you currently do. So the chain resync and the seed resync, we've got a much more efficient way of doing that now. It's much faster, especially from phones, and a lot more robust. So looking forward to also getting that out there. And I think Barry was actually quite keen to talk a bit about decentralization and archive nodes and how he feels about this going forward.
Thank you, Jasmine. Yeah, decentralisation, this is the reason we're here. It's the only reason we're here. A lot of people seem to forget that. And with our new builds coming out, we will get true decentralisation. Currently, the culture is, and we didn't expect it to be like this, that when people run into troubles with their node, their knee-jerk reaction is to do a seed resync and get everything back. We only have a limited number of centralised archive servers currently running that everyone hits. Other users, as I do, run archive servers themselves, and they can share those IPs. But again, you are relying on somebody else. What the new hub-only APK will give you is the chance to be truly digitally sovereign, to rely on nobody for anything at any point. A new user can download the app, touch the network by getting an IP address from an existing user for their first connection to the net. They can run their node -archive to make it an archive node itself. They can do one chain resync from either another archive node or from one of these archive files, and run their own archive on their device. By exporting your archive once a month gives you a file that will enable you to resync and restore from. It's a file that you can share with other users. It's think of it as a decentralized archive. Rather than hitting our servers host auto to resync, you just connect to one of these archive files that will be shared, or that hopefully you'll be running yourself. So this gives you the ability to literally rely on nobody. If something goes wrong with your node, you're behind the chain, you can just resync from your own archive and pick up the last little bit from the network. If someone needs to restore their node, doesn't have an IP for an archive node, you can share that file and they can do that. This is true digital sovereignty, and we need to look to change our culture to be less reliant on Minima, the company, to be hosting the relay nodes and hosting the archive servers, and get into that mentality of doing it ourselves, because it will be so very easy. As Jasmine said, this new system will make resyncing and restoring a lot more robust, a lot faster, and a lot more straightforward. So, currently it takes half an hour, 40 minutes where you're connecting to a remote server, the internet can go down, something can happen and it fails, you don't get all the information. But with this new system of exporting your own personal archive and restoring from that, that will take all that away and make it, super powerful. So again, decentralization is why we're here, and I believe that we're going to be the only truly decentralized blockchain out there, and certainly the only one that gives the abilities for individuals to be truly digitally sovereign and rely on nobody but themselves to do every part of this blockchain.
And if I can just chip in very quickly, Baz, just to say that Barry was the one who actually hammered on about this, because I was under the impression, wrongly, that these files would be very, very large. So obviously I've got MySQL databases. Those of you that know, you can do a MySQL archive and you can store the data in there and it's like, 800 megabytes, blah, blah, blah. But interestingly, if you zip the dump of the MySQL, it actually turns out to be about a 200 megabyte file. And so after Barry just wouldn't shut up about it for ages, we actually knocked it up in a couple of days. And what this means, what he's saying is that there'll be a function where you can go export and you get a 200 megabyte file, and that's the complete network for anybody to update from zero to the current state. It's the coin database, the MMR database, and it builds everything. And that's much smaller than I thought it would be. And so now, that's 200 megabytes isn't really a lot nowadays. That's like 4 CDs back in the day in MP3. So that's all we're talking about here. We're not talking gigabytes here. We're talking like a 200 megabyte file that you can export on your phone, and then with that file you can seed sync anybody, chain sync, seed sync, everything. So, and as Baz said, the really crucial thing is that because you're not using a web connection, you don't have any of that nitty gritty stuff where you lose the connection and then it tries to reconnect, etc., etc. So it's much faster, much more stable. And I think this is going to be a really good way of getting people to start having their own archives. Also, just to say, from a security point of view, the data is non-fakeable, which means either it works or it doesn't. The list of links, the hashing, the way that blockchains work, etc., which is nice, which means that either somebody gives you a correct one or it's incorrect, and you can tell that it's incorrect. So that's also very nice. So, a really, really nice feature that I'm very much looking forward to seeing in practice. And as Barry says, this is it's more of a sort of community thing. Only 1% of us need to actually do. You only need one of these for everybody. But if 1% of us can, 5% of us can start to do this, that's loads. That means lots of different people will have these files, which allow different users to, to resync. The eventual goal is for you to not need this. The eventual goal is for it to work perfectly, for you never to have that issue. And annoyingly, I have to say, I run like 7 different versions of Minima, and I don't seem to need this because my nodes never seem to go out of sync. I know that it happens. It's totally fine. It's a very, you just can't predict what is going to happen in the wild, and this is obviously something that affects things. I'm always brought up to the Amazon thing, which says, look, they get an error 1 in a billion. So their code is so tight and their code is so perfect that they get an error 1 every billion operations. But they get like 20 billion operations a day. And that means they get 20 errors a day, even though they're on a 1 in a billion mistake. And so as the numbers grow, it doesn't really matter whether you're 99.99% efficient if there's 100,000 of you, because that means that every day 5 people are going to have an issue, 10 people are going to have an issue. So this is going to make a really big difference, and I'm very much looking forward to you all getting involved in that. In sort of different communities, different discords. You can put this on a website and say, look, here's my nightly push. You can run this in this jar, you can run this from wherever, but if you have it running on your phone, which is the cool thing, then as Barry says, you are totally decentralized. You don't have to speak to anybody. You can keep these files for yourself. You don't have to share them if you don't want to. And it means that whatever happens, you can always resync yourself. So very nice tech, and I'm going to have to give big up to Baz for that, for pushing for that, and it works really well. So I'm quite impressed. He thought of it, but I wrote it.
We think the database, the whole Minima chain will probably be sort of 600 megabytes a year, uncompressed. So as Paddy says, compressed, that gets down to sort of 200, 250 megabytes, very manageable. Even if that was a gigabyte in 4 or 5 years' time, still not a great deal of data.
It's good.
In 5 years, it's going to be infinite data everywhere anyway.
We'll come up with some new way of doing it.
Haven't you got a node running on a Chromecast now, Barry?
Yes, I sideloaded the hub-only version onto my incy-wincy, teeny-weeny Google Chromecast, and it's been running fine. We need to sort of just change a little bit of the interface in terms of selecting the mini dApps, but I don't think there's much work there. And you know, it'd be very, I mean, because these devices are always on as well. So, you know, if you've got one at home running, you can just set up a node there and let it chug away. It's not very powerful.
Beautiful.
It does the job.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
That's a
very
nice
nice.
app.
Just a follow-up question here that I can see in the chat, saying you talked about giving further rewards after the TG anniversary. What about the new node runners? Will they have any incentive of running it? So the loyalty rewards will only be for our existing incentive program users, and new node runners will have other incentives for. So the loyalty will only be for existing holders.
I mean,
It's the KYC nightmare.
There's lots of different ways. There's lots of different ways that new users can earn Minima. I mean, they can become moderators and earn Minima that way. They can develop a mini dApp. They can be active and contribute to the channel and find bugs. There's lots of extra ways to get some extra coins.
I think this does bring up an interesting point, though, which I'm sure everybody here has seen the horror that is the world coin orb that scans your eye. Yeah. And the reason they use that is because individually picking users is very hard. That is very hard to not civil attack. By which I mean is it's very hard for us to know whether somebody is one person or whether somebody's pretending to be 1,000 people. So we did a lot of work to make sure that the list in the database of the pre-runners is all actual individuals. Trying to do that again, it's just really almost it's impossible basically. So WorldCoin has to do it by scanning your iris. And if you
that
want
being said, with WorldCoin, you can still buy WorldCoin IDs for 50 cents. You know, so even their retina scanning system isn't perfect.
It is the antithesis of Minima, that WorldCoin. I don't understand it. I don't understand how they've managed to get, nobody understands anything because everybody loves WorldCoin and it's just so horrific. I can't even go there. But that's why it's a problem. Yeah, because recognizing you as a single user is a really hard problem. It doesn't actually have a solution. And so we'll have to come up with different ways for the new users to get coins.
But suffice to say, not by scanning your iris. Sorry, Jazz.
No, that's all from me, Luke.
Cool. Okay, so thanks for that, everyone.
I think the best place to get some coins is obviously to buy them off of Bitfinex or MEXC or Uniswap.
So moving on to the AMA section of the call. First question comes from Suriga Key, asking, how do you feel about the fact that many smart home devices will use your network for free? It's probably one for you, Hugo.
Yeah, thanks for that, Luke. It's a good question. I mean, we'll feel quite happy, to be honest. I'll sort of go into a bit more detail on that. I mean, to clarify, all devices that use the network, it won't be completely free. Each device will be doing some work, albeit a very small amount of work, to use the network. And it's the fact that all these devices do a small amount of work that, it creates the decentralized security that the state gives the network, gives the network its value. So there will be a very small amount of work, but you're right in your question that these devices won't be paying huge gas fees. There are no miners or stakers to be paying on the network, and we see this as a huge draw for users and for individual users and enterprises alike to adopt the Minima. And as we move more into the realms of connecting IoT devices, we see the fact that Minima as a software integration with an existing device is a very strong selling point. Of course, we often get compared to the likes of Helium or IoTech, but these projects require people to purchase dedicated hardware in order for them to participate in the network, which is, that's not an insignificant barrier to entry. Minima, on the other hand, we can exist on devices that people already have in their pockets or in, either mobile phones or even their cars. So it makes it much easier to adopt Minima. Our end goal has always been to create a secure and cost-effective way for all these devices to communicate and transfer value. As we have a fixed tap supply of coins, as more devices run on the network and demand for the coin rises, then this will drive value for the project as well. So we actually see the ability for devices to effectively run for free, although they're doing a bit of work, as a huge bonus for Minima.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of confused about this question because it's like that's what you want, isn't it? You want to be able to run it for free. You don't want to have to be charged to run whatever it is you're running. And just to explain that the work you do is not for me, it's for you. Yeah, the coins you're protecting are yours, not mine. The fact that this is a cooperative game is the ticker. Yeah, that's why it's cool. Because when you protect your coins, you're protecting my coins. But you don't care about my coins, you care about your coins, which is correct. And so you do work to protect those. You do work on top of the chain where your coins are still valid, and that is the chain of events, the sequence of events that gives you your balance. And so you do work protecting that chain. You don't do work, spurious work. You do work that matters to you. And because me and you are both on the same chain, then the work that you do also helps me, just as the inverse is true. Where I do work to protect my coins, I'm helping you. But you want as many people to run Minima for free, as in monetarily for free. But Minima has monetized hashing, in the way Bitcoin has monetized hashing, but in a sort of, they've done it in a way where they pay miners, whereas we've done it in a way where you secure your coins. And I know which one I prefer. I prefer where you protect your coins, and in so doing, you also protect my coins. So you want people to be able to run it, as many people to run it, with as little a barrier to entry as possible.
Amen to that. Cheers, gents. Great question. The next question is from Astronaut, who asks, what about community incentivizing? So that's going to be one more for me. Obviously, we've already kind of touched on that. So the rewards for running a node for pre-existing, sort of pre-registered people who were getting incentivized for their nodes during our testnet will continue to be incentivized in the way that we've already described, and we'll have a bit more news about that soon. But for new users, we won't be incentivizing the running of a node, and the key reason for that being that bootstrap phase of the network is over, but the future growth of the network is going to be coming through our partnerships with the sort of 10 to hundreds of thousands of nodes that will be required for their projects. That being said, we do want to continue to incentivize you as community members, and to that end we are looking at rebooting the ambassador platform or the program, bringing on new tasks which will be focused on creating and doing. So not just rewards for being a part of the community, but for participating within the community, whether that's through the Dev Grants program if you're looking to build, or you're a developer who wants to build mini dApps or contribute in that way. Potentially also for helping promote things as we put them out. The other thing we're going to be looking at is the XP system that we currently have on the Discord server. We're looking to update that to a different platform that will sort of better support our aims going forwards. But with the XP that all of you already have, we're exploring a way to convert that XP that you have to Minima coins at a rate which we will sort of talk about at a future point. But that's something that's coming down the line as well. But I suppose the key point is incentivization for the community going forwards would be about contribution and participation within the ecosystem, and promoting that, not just for running a node.
Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Just to say that we can flip that as well. And so there are other reasons for you to run Minima, even if you don't have any Minima coins, and that is to run Maxima applications. So I know Max Solo, it's almost there, but it's not quite there, frankly. I'm sorry. It's just this single application where two people can chat to each other privately and securely. But I see a lot of chatter about that. I see a lot of different. There was one that was launched the other day, big hoo-ha made. They're about to clamp down on end-to-end encryption. They're about to, they're allowed to tell companies to take stuff down, which is exactly what we can't do, because on Maxima I have no idea who is sending what to anybody. So actually, coming up with a really good mini dApp. So the one I really want is MaxChat. Yeah, I want WhatsApp clone as mini dApp, which I know you could do over Maxima. It would look exactly the same, identical to WhatsApp. Now, if you could do that as a mini dApp and people could just, chat to each other, they don't need any Minima. What I'd really like is if you could actually put that mini dApp itself as an application in the Android store itself. And you download that, and then somehow it says, look, you need to have Minima running in the background, then it uses RPC, in transparent to you. We're not going to make it complicated. But if you could just come up with an application that uses Maxima, you have to work to send your Maxima messages, so that's good. That protects the network. That would be a really good incentive to get people to use the network. It's almost like, we're not paying you to use the network, we're incentivizing you to use it by giving you great apps, and by doing so you're helping me and you're helping yourself and you're helping the rest of the network because of the whole cooperative game, blah 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 thing. So I think that's the way to get many more users, by coming up with some really, really good Maxima applications. Right now, when there's not that much use for Minima, there's not many things that you can do with Minima, fine. There are still lots of things you can do on the Minima network, because you can use the Maxima network, and we've got this whole mini-DAP system and blah, 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 blah. So that would be my way of getting hundreds of thousands of users quickly, by writing a really, really good app, DAP.
Thank you for that question, Astronaut. And the next question comes to us from DM, who asks, why not end the Maximize program, which rewards holders in proportion to their locked holdings, and instead reallocate the reward to something else, for example, running nodes or publishing DApps? Hugo?
Yeah, no, I think really, to be honest, you've probably just answered, you and Paddy have just answered this in this question. Our plan is to have reward programs for different types of behaviour. So Maximise to incentivise long-term holders, Vesta to reward loyalty from our early incentive program participants, and then grants for building and publishing on mini dApps. So there's coins to go around in all different directions, depending on people's sort of incentives and how they want to be getting involved with Minima, and how they want to be sort of rewarded for it. So, we're definitely going to keep open lots of different options for different types of users to keep people coming on to Minima and sticking with Minima and keep on running it, basically.
Cheers, Hugo, and thanks for the question, DM. So we've got a whole heap of questions from our next questioner, from Kwan Shebek. His first question is, please announce the entire list of partners. Okay, so we would love to be able to announce all our partners immediately, and we always announce partners as soon as we can. And we're working with a lot of Web 2 companies who are looking to bring on that huge customer base from Web 2 to Web 3 with our Minima. And obviously, they have huge customer bases and customer number of users, but it also means they move much slower in terms of corporate PR. And so, the different stages of development with these different partners means it sort of takes different amounts of time for us to be able to go live with them, because we need to wait for sign off from these partners who are either waiting for specific technical milestones to be met or sort of corporate milestones. To date, we have announced in a lot of our partnerships, obviously within NFT space, we announced WeTransfer and our market on our NFT marketplace. Within automotive, we've been doing a lot of announcing since last year in terms of our progress in Mobility X Labs, which obviously is part of the, which includes CEVT, which is part of Geely Auto's Innovation Hub, Volvo, Polestar, Ericsson, Veoneer, Link & Co. And we're going to be, as Luke alluded to, in terms of our Vault project and solution, we're looking to announce a specific partnership with an automotive OEM on that in Q3. And then again, as we move forward with telcos, we published our POC with Manx Telecom when we did that, and then also our testnet and code audit with Swisscom. And then what we're looking to do now, once we onboard these global telcos with our branded network tokens, network access tokens, then we'll be announcing those as well. Again, we have to wait for the sort of summer period, because the corporates tend to go on holiday for a long period of time over the summer, which keeps us waiting. But again, as soon as they're back and we sign those deals, then we will absolutely be announcing them here, and also obviously the PR push to sort of make sure we get them out to the wider audience as well. So, on to the next question, Luke. I don't know. Yeah, no, apologies. Actually, I'd lost my mouse pointer for a second. I was trying to get myself back unmuted.
That's all right. Don't worry.
So
the next one is, how are the communication companies doing?
Yeah.
So as Luke described above, in terms of ahead of me, in terms of, we now have a solution, because telcos, a commercial solution that will drive new revenue streams. This is something. Before Minima was a solution without a commercial incentive for the telcos. Whereas now what we have is we have a solution that can really sort of accelerate their ability to drive incremental revenue with existing solutions that they have. So, network credit is a solution that all telcos use with a lot of their customers who don't use contracts. And now what we're enabling these telcos to do is to effectively add Web3 solutions on top of that, where you can get branded network credits, whereby they'll be able to bring on board advertisers who want to have direct access to the telco's customer base, and then not only just branded awareness, but also bring on board new loyalty and reward schemes within the tokens that give users both access to the network, but then also added value in terms of different promotions that these advertisers can bring on board. And so that is something that's really a light bulb moment for them in many ways. And we've been talking to various telcos, over the last sort of 3 years in terms of the solutions that can be delivered. And now that we're live with our mainnet, telcos are really understanding how we can actually give them an easy option for incremental revenue, which is obviously a huge agenda for them. And this is something that, as I say, you'll see it from the video once we've released it this afternoon, how this is going to work. And again, we'll be announcing the telco partnerships once everyone's back from the summer holidays.
Great. So we're looking at a different aspect of what our sort of verticals here. So Kranjbek then asks, are there any approved uniform rules and regulations for electric vehicle charging stations?
Yeah. So we're working currently with senior automotive engineers, perhaps at Volvo, who are fully versed in the upcoming standards and regulations for EV charging. So as I say, these projects are always done in collaboration with our corporate partners. We are a small but important part of their tech stack in terms of delivering the authentication angle, and therefore also the ability to sort of transfer value in a decentralized way. But again, it all has to back into the the ongoing industry standards as well. So that's something that we'll be getting advice on and working with them to ensure that we're sort of compliant with everything that goes on with that.
Great. He then asks, what work is being done to attract new investors?
Cool, yeah, I'll take that one as well. So, there are two types of investors, institutional investors and retail investors. With regards to institutional investors, we're in serious discussions with both existing and new investors. The bear market means that these discussions now take much longer and are much slower as they carry out more DD on each project, but that's something that we've been going through over the last few weeks, because we're now at the start of a sort of major funding round as we move Minima towards commercial engagements that will drive revenue through a SaaS model to onboard enterprise clients and that will use Minima as part of their tech stack. This investment round will allow us to then continue to create products with enterprise clients to drive adoption of Minima network, as well as enabling us to boost our investment in marketing activity, which then obviously follows into the sort of retail investor realm, where everyone's looking for positive news in terms of the project, in terms of adoption and awareness. And that is something, so these two things are intrinsically linked, but we're sort of looking to raise funds via institutional first and then to drive exposure of Minima into the wider market for retail investors to then sort of create the buy pressure around that. Obviously, part of that will be our Rosetta integration, which will make native Minima easily accessible on centralized exchanges, which obviously increases the sort of funnel of potential buyers of Minima. So that's the sort of the process that we are hard at work on at the moment, and so hopefully we'll be giving some more positive updates as we get them over the coming sort of weeks and months.
Thanks for that insight, Hugo. Next question then is, what are the developments in the field of PR for the Minima project at the international level? I mean, I would assume pretty much revolving around our partnerships.
Yeah, absolutely. PR requires something tangible to talk about, and we have been as we have more projects coming alive and new solutions being built on Minima, then we make sure that everyone is aware of these through our PR activity. Partnerships are critical as they not only give an insight into the solutions that Minima can generate, but also being able to link in with brands with huge customer bases and give credibility in many ways to what we're building. That's the critical point. So yeah, as these projects come live and we can make an announcement, then we will be making those through sort of usual PR channels.
Great, thank you, Hugo. Got a few more questions from Quenny Shebeck, but Hugo, you get to rest your voice now. You'll be glad to hear. I think these ones are going to be for you, Paddy. So the next question is, how about creating a new decentralized exchange based on the Minima protocol? Are there any developments in this direction? Hot question within the community.
DEX is the way to go. I don't like sex, but I do like DEXs. And problem with the DEX is the order book. What you want is, you don't want the order book to be on chain, because that's slow and clunky and expensive. So the trick is to come up with a way, really, for people to meet, for people to find each other, and then they can do the swap. Then they can say, like, I'm selling this or I'm buying this, and then we can do it. So I actually, wrote a little mini demo POC of a DEX that I'm now going to be working on. Very simple. And all it really does in this first iteration is that it lets people find other people who want to buy or sell Minima. Now, there's two types of DEXs. There's the one that does the native Minima stuff, so Minima for tokens, and then there's the cross-chain DEX. Yeah, so there's like, I want to buy some Minima for USDT, I want to sell some Minima for USDT. Yeah, that would be a cross-chain DEX using US dollar. You could do fiat, but the thing about fiat is that you always have to have a moderator in the middle, so I don't like that. Yeah, whereas if we use smart contracts, then we can make it bullet. So Minima already has a little mini DApp called Mini Swap. Some of you may have seen this. It's that, it's I'm going to say 70% app. It's not a great app, but it works, and it doesn't break. It's secure. You can't lose your coins. It's decentralized. It's peer to peer. These are the things that are at the top of the stack. And then, like, is it pretty? Is it really fast? Is it sweet and all that? Like, for instance, those of you that have used Mini Swap can tell that if you integrated Maxima into it, you wouldn't have to copy paste all those things to each other. It could just sit there doing it, and when it recognized something, it could send the message to Nova Maxima, and then he could send it back, and blah blah blah. So there's a lot of work that could be done to make Miniswap a lot better UX wise, UE wise. The fundamental tech is working and nice, and that's what matters to me. But the UX and the UE stuff is actually what is the first bite. So what we're working on now is a mini DApp DEX that allows you to add order books. Users can run an order book, which is just a little server that you can run. I've tried to get it running over Maxima using the max hash, static Maxima address. There's a few issues with that, because Maxima still requires you to do work when you send information back. Yeah, it's a push network, not a get network. So it's very simple, and you run an order book. And then when you run an order book, people can say, look, I want to buy this much Minima for this price, or I want to sell this much Minima for this price. When a user opens the mini DApp, he adds as many order books as he wants. You can have the same orders in different order books, and it uses public keys and all that stuff, so they don't overlap. It knows that it's just one order. And then when you find a link, a match between two users, it puts them in touch, and then they use Miniswap. And what I like about this is that it's a DApp stack. What I mean by that is that there's the DEX part of it, and then there's the Miniswap part of it, and you can update either part of it, and the whole then becomes better. So I definitely think DEXs are the way to go. I totally love DEXs. Permissionless, no KYC, no usernames, no passwords, none of that. Yeah, you have your account, which is your public key that you can sign messages with, the private key. So that's the way to go. It uses an off-chain order book, which is really important because then it's just quick and you can change your order without having to do an on-chain transaction. And effectively what it'll do is it'll just put users together. Going further with this, you could actually do it for fiat, you could do it for whatever you want, but to start with, I'm just going to do Minima USDT Minima. And it'll just be a mini dApp, and it'll get users together, and then at least you can find users that you can buy and sell with. So that would be the first stage. And then, then there's other things that you could do, like you could have one mini dApp which is, reputational. Yeah, I always think that there is an element to that. Reputation is a really tough one to do because, again, it's really hard to stop people from faking it. So how do you know that the seller that you're getting involved with is actually a seller, etc., etc.? But there are things that you could do. Like your max contacts could be the ones that rate a user, or a friend of a friend rates a user. Yeah, that could matter to you more. So you call these trust chains. So trust chains could be used as a method of validating users and whether their offers are true or false. So there's things we could do with that, and that could be another mini dApp just for reputational stuff. And then you could have the DEX mini dApp, which is how do I find people in an order book, and then you have the Miniswap mini dApp, which is okay, now that I've found the user, how do I actually do it? And I'm noticing now there's a few apps which are actually starting to use the open new apps with link things. So you do something in one mini dApp and then you click it and then it opens another mini dApp. That's really nice. That's the way it should be. Yeah, so you should be building up an ecosystem of applications where they all layer on top of each other, and DEX will be taking full use of this. So yeah, DEX definitely something that's really important. We're working on it. Hopefully, I could, a month, maybe 6 weeks, we'll have some demo out for the testers to see if they can use it. But really, really important. Really like it, and it's definitely in the pipeline, and it's something that we're going to be knocking out very soon. So looking forward to that.
Cheers, Paddy. The next question then is, when can we practice creating smart contracts on the Minima blockchain?
So you can do that now. And I know I've only done 2 videos. Sorry, those videos take it out of you. Yeah, it's like take 2 hours to set up and etc. etc. And I really like to do more of them. But there is a very nice 2-video tutorial on YouTube now. The first one, which is how do you set up a little private network and muck about and send some money. And the second one is how do I set up a time lock contract? How do I do something a little bit cool on Minima? And it goes through the whole process. Uses script IDE, which not a lot of people use, but anyway, it uses script IDE, shows you how you would write a contract, how you would then import it, and how you would send funds to it, etc., etc. So you can do that now. The thing that that always gets me when I talk to people about smart contracts is that they think they're going to get the computational power that Ethereum gives you. Yeah, the sacrifice that Ethereum had to make to give you the power that it gives you is that it is not decentralized. Whereas what Minima does is it gives you this UTXO system with these state variables, which means that each transaction is individual. Each transaction is independent of any of the other transactions, which is really nice because it means that they can be processed separately from there's no global state. It's just the state of your little bit of the network where you're doing your little transactions. But what Minima is for is value transfer. Yeah, that's what the UTXO system is. That's what it does. That's the only thing it does. It just takes inputs and it gives you outputs of different values. And actually breaking down your ideas, breaking down the idea that you have into that paradigm is, for me, the complicated bit. Actually writing the smart contracts and getting them to stick together is not as complicated as actually thinking about, well, what in my smart contract requires the transfer of value from one person to another, transfer of a number. Yeah, so I had this much of this, and I'm going to give some to him and some to some to her. So that for me is the tricky bit when you're trying to write smart contracts on a UTXO model. I've also recently knocked up a little Lotto application, and when I released that, the reason that's really nice is because the whole point of this UTXO system, in my honest opinion, the reason I went for the UTXO when designing Minima is that works perfectly off-chain. This is something that is really, really important because you're never going to get all of us running on chain. Layer 1 doesn't scale. It's not going to work on layer 1. It has to be on layer 2. And when you take a complicated system like Ethereum, it just doesn't run. And when I say layer 2, I mean Lightning. I mean instant, free, cheap limitless transactions. I don't mean another blockchain off another. I don't mean an L2 blockchain like Polygon. I don't mean a 5 of 8 security system. It's completely pointless. What I mean is a system where me and you can transact at whatever speed we can handle for free. That's L2 when I refer to L2. And the UTXO model allows you to do that. And so that's the way that you need to be thinking about these things. And I have found that you can do anything. I've written a little lotto gambling game. I'm going to write a little poker app. You can do complicated verification. That's the interesting bit, because you work out all the hands and all the scores off chain, and then all you ever do on chain is verify. You don't do the actual computation on chain. You only verify stuff on chain. That's another mental leap that needs to be made when you're writing smart contracts. So, maybe there needs to be a place where you guys can say, look, I want to write this kind of app, and we can all chip in and say, well, look, this is how I would think about writing it. But again, Minima is not a general purpose database. Minima is not a general purpose computer where you should do everything and anything. That isn't the point of a censorship resistant network. That's not what you're meant to be doing on the network, and it won't work because it'll be too expensive and too clunky and too slow. There are certain bits of what you're trying to do that need to be the censorship resistant bit, because that's the only thing that blockchain does. Everything else needs to be done off chain. And when you think about your application and you think about what you're trying to do with your smart contract, you need to sort of realize which bits need to be on the chain and which bits don't. And that again is another mental leap that you need to come up with. And it's like, well, okay, I only need to do this bit, the payment bit, or I need to do the validation of a layer 2 contract. But the only reason you should ever use L1 is to jump to L2 or dispute resolution, or to jump off L2. That's it. Those 3 functions are actually all you need to do on L1. You shouldn't ever be doing anything else on L1. And if you do that, then you've got no problems. Then none of us have got any problems. I mean, you'll be booted off eventually when there's enough traffic, because it'll just become too expensive for you to use. And so that's why you'll have to use those 3 things, jumping onto L2 and off. Sorry, I'm digressing. So you can do your smart contracts now. There's a couple of nice tutorials on YouTube to show you. But as I said, I think the hardest thing isn't actually knocking out the smart contract. It's thinking about what you're trying to do on chain and what can be done off chain. And that is a far more nebulous thing to come up with. But check out the tutorials. Should be fine. Ask questions in the dev chat rooms. We'll try and help you.
Cheers, Paddy. So the final question from Kwani Shebek's wide-ranging selection. How can we puzzle new developers? What can we offer them, and how to interest them? Building new dApps or improving mini dApps? Jazz, I reckon this one's for you.
Yeah, great question. I think a big thing for developers is making sure that there's enough resources. So as Paddy mentioned, working on creating new videos, and we'll be publishing a lot of updates to the docs soon. There's lots of tutorials already in the docs, and we're seeing more and more community-driven content, which is also great. If anyone does have community content that they've seen that they think's really good, then please do share it. We also have the grants program. So if you have an idea and a team, you can email grants@minima.global and apply for a grant. And we do also have a handful of community-built mini dApps that have been making very good progress. And we anticipate that they'll start inviting community in for testing in the coming weeks. So really looking forward to that. You can also do a bit, spread the word, and if you do know any developers and think that they would be interested in building on Minima, then send them to the Discord channel and get involved in the chats.
If I could just chip in. What I'd like to say is that when you get Minima running and when you write a mini dApp, what you have is a system which allows you to write an application where you can send tokens, Minima, whatever it is you want, to someone, and information over Maxima in a censorship-resistant way. So when I'm writing an application, and I've got the interweb, and I'm trying to use the internet to write my application, it only really gives me information. I don't get the value. I need to use banking, I need to use e-commerce, I need to use something somebody else is giving you to use that. Whereas a Minima, that's all sort of wrapped up in one, in a nice simple package called a mini dApp that you can share. So purely on a power level, I feel you get a lot from the Minima ecosystem. I feel you get a lot more from anything else that's out there, frankly. I'll take the Pepsi challenge with anything, even Bitcoin, with regards to the power of the things that you can do on the Minima network versus any other network, because you get the value, you get the information, and you get the ecosystem of applications that you can share with people. It's like you got all three. You can do whatever you want. You can write whatever application you want. So there is a lot of power there. That in and of itself is quite a draw when you're thinking, I'd like to write an application, that does this or does whatever, and what I can chat to people, and I can send them messages, and no one can turn my servers off, no, because there's no servers. You're just running it over Maxima, and we can use tokenization of stuff to send tokens to people. Yeah, that's all inbuilt already. And I can do it in this simple mini dApp system that basically everybody understands, and I can just share these files and they can run it. And it's like, yeah, you got that too. So it's almost like its own little thing. You could almost exist just on Minima. I'd love that to be the case. I'd love it to be the case that you were just running, living on the mini hub. No browser, no nothing. You've just got mini dApps, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of power there, for developers. If they're thinking of writing applications, I'd be hard pushed to come up with a system that gave you as many things that you could do, to fulfill the requirements that you have for your application that you get from Minima. So, there's a lot there for you to get your teeth into.
I love that challenge. If anybody in the audience wants to take Paddy up on that challenge, get to the Break Room channel, put in your challenges, and we'll have it out. Thanks for that then, Paddy. The next question comes from Black Dyke, asking about Vault. The Wallbox owner might be nervous that some stranger is in their backyard. How will you comfort the owner about the consumer? There might be some point system like Airbnb, for example. What are our plans around that? Thanks. Hugo.
I think, Vault is definitely aimed to be the Airbnb of Wallbox charging. Before Airbnb existed, it was inconceivable that you'd have a random stranger stay in your house, but now everyone does it. And I think that'll be the same step change that we see with wallbox charging. And at the moment, if you have got a wallbox, you wouldn't imagine getting someone to come and park and you're trying to sort of plug in, because you wouldn't know how to charge for the electricity that they're using from your electricity supply. Whereas, if what we're looking to do with our partners is create a solution whereby anyone can come up and charge and pay for it as well. We are part of that stack. And just as, in Airbnb, when you're a host at your house, you encourage visitors to come and stay, and you want to give them a good experience. And equally, they'll be rated as well. So there'll definitely be elements of making sure that there's sort of the two-way process for both the owners and the users to be rated and give credibility for the users, and also comfort and a feeling of sort of control from the owners of the wallboxes. And the other thing as well, just like Airbnb, the owners will also be able to set the rates at which they charge out their electricity as well, so they can be more competitive than their neighbours, for example, as well. So that will obviously drive demand. So I think a lot of the learnings and sort of social interactions that are achieved with Airbnb to give both the host and the visitor peace of mind will start to be included in the solution as well.
That makes sense. Cheers for that, Hugo. I think I'm just looking at the time. We're sort of slightly over now, so I think we've got time for one more question, and I've got one here from Ernie. Any update on mini farm for Wrap Minima? The current pool expires in 2 weeks. Barry?
Yeah, we are hoping to extend mini farm for another 2 or 3 years. Just working out some technical kinks, but watch this space.
Bro. Thanks for that one, mate. I can see that we've got a few more questions in the stage questions channel, quite in-depth ones by the looks of it, and we are now out of time. So what we'll do is I'll get the right people to come to that channel and answer your questions there. Thank you everyone who's joined us in the call today in the audience. Without you, Minima just doesn't work, so thank you for coming in. And thank you everyone that's spoken today. I appreciate you taking the time. As I said at the top, this call is recorded, so I'll be putting that up for you to catch up on YouTube by the end of the day, and the video around telcos and tokenization is now live on YouTube. I'll be putting links into our channel shortly, but by all means head to our YouTube channel now to check that out. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.
Cheers,
Thanks very
guys.
much, everyone. Thank
Everyone.
you.